said, don't, try and get the credit rating to improve. Don't certainly let it go backwards, and balance the budget. And we balanced the budget. We got a small surplus. We're not flooded with cash yet, but we're on our way. At least we're headed in the right direction. And the banks have given us great ratings. So have the Dominion bond security companies and the rest of that. So that's good. I mean, the ratings are good for the province. The debt is being paid down. So those are the highlights, I guess. I mean, we did some really good legislation. The Cooperatives Act was really important to people, a lot of people in rural areas who depend on cooperatives. The Credit Union Act, once again, and really helped some people in some rural areas. That was a really good one. The Unclaimed Property Act, we just are finishing up that, and that hopefully will inject some money into our economy, because there's some money out there waiting for people to find. It's like old wills, or it could be pensions or whatever that you've just forgotten about, old bank accounts you've forgotten about. We brought about this act, and we followed a number of these acts that happened across Canada. BC's the most recent, and Alberta, I guess, but and also the federal have a plan. But anyway, it's kind of neat. So look for that in the coming months. That'll be exciting. And there's other legislation that we put in with FCNB that have been important to New Brunswickers. They're not always flashy, but it's important financial stuff, and that's what we dig. Yeah.
Excellent. And you mentioned balancing the budget, certainly of great importance to the business community across the province. Another area of importance that the business community has expressed desire or interest in working with the government on is comprehensive tax reform. And I know that that's been an area that yourself and the Premier have spoke of. I'm just curious about what your plans are there. Is there a process that you plan to unveil aligned to the next budget?
Yes, I would say stay tuned. March the 10th. It was a long process. We engaged Jack Mintz, who's worked with the province before. He's at the University of Calgary and an expert in taxes and an expert in how jurisdictions should be taxing and how we should be using our taxes. But mostly we wanted to know, okay, where are the places that we are too high, too low, and some people would say we're too high everywhere. But we engaged him to find out how the tax system should run better, and I'm happy with it. And so there's an announcement coming up. I didn't really want to talk a whole lot about a budget. I can't really, because right now with cabinet confidentiality, we can't really talk about that, other than to say that stay tuned to March the 10th.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And of course, we understand that not only the reason for a balanced budget would be to reduce the overall debt burden that New Brunswickers face, but also to enable the government to make strategic investments in key areas. And some of the emerging sectors that New Brunswick is having a leadership position in would be sectors like cybersecurity. I'm wondering if you can talk to the viewers about what the government's thoughts are around those types of emerging sectors and what types of strategic investments the government is making to facilitate that.
I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about future investments, but there's plans underway. Knowledge Park is being built, and we have to fill that building, absolutely. And cybersecurity is an up-and-coming business. So it is a future for New Brunswick, but New Brunswick has got all sorts of things. It's a wonderful province, and all sorts of things to rely on for the future, be it in the rural area or in the metro areas. And cybersecurity is one of them. But I mean, also one of them is fishing and forestry and everything else that we can depend on New Brunswick for. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what are, just in terms of closing thoughts, what should New Brunswickers be excited about over the year to come?
Well, what I think is exciting, what they think is exciting, maybe not. I mean, I'm in the bean counter area of government, so I get excited about balancing the budget. I get excited about paying down some of our debt. But keep in mind, I mean, people have a hard time thinking of millions and billions of dollars. I mean, we got a budget of $9.8 billion. We got revenue coming in of $9.9 billion. If you take away all the zeros, and we got a debt of $14 billion, right? So which is $18,000 for every man, woman, and child in the province. When you take away all the zeros, I like to use this analogy. If you had a Visa card at home, and never mind $14 billion, let's take it down to $1,400, okay? And people say, hey, look at you, just paid this big payment of, whatever it was, $240 million or so, let's say. So you got it's actually 24 million, now that I think about it. Get rid of all the zeros. Okay, so you got a Visa card, $1,400. We just paid like $24 on the $1,400 Visa, which is not huge, but it's a step in the right direction.
Right.
And I'm excited for that. And I'm excited when people understand that New Brunswick has had tough times and has been in some financial difficulty. But you know what? We're working, trying to get it out.
Excellent.
And we appreciate the support.
Well, we certainly appreciate your service, and we appreciate you being here with us tonight. So thanks so much.
Super. All right.
All right. Well, for those of you just joining us now, we are at the annual State of the Province address hosted by the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, and we are awaiting the Premier's speech, which will begin shortly. We're joined in the pre-show by many of New Brunswick's top political leaders, and right now we have the privilege of being joined by Mr. Kevin Vickers, who is the leader of the New Brunswick Liberal Party. Mr. Vickers, welcome to the program.
Welcome, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's very kind of you.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Vickers, we're going to be hearing from the Premier about his vision for the province over the course of the next year. I was hoping that we could begin by giving New Brunswickers a sense of what your vision is for New Brunswick.
Well, you know, the vision really, I think, is one of critically important is the economy, and I'm really hoping this evening that to hear from the Premier that he'll present a plan, a strategic plan that's going to help our province grow from an economic sense. As you know, the economy is growth has been quite stagnated for the last while, and so I'm really looking forward for the Premier to present tonight a critical plan, strategic plan as to how he and his government are going to advance the economy of the province. Because as we know, we have many challenges: education, healthcare are issues, the homeless, concerns around poverty, and the only way we're going to be able to address those issues is with a very strong and vibrant economy. So hopefully tonight we'll see Premier Higgs present a strategic plan as to how the economy will grow to address these issues.
Absolutely. And if you were to pick, one of those items that we would really hope to hear some specific commitments from the Premier in tonight's speech, what would those be?
Well, I think the big issues, of course, is healthcare and education, but particularly in healthcare, and I want to compliment the Premier and his government. Just recently, we heard the announcement on the increase on the issue of nurse practitioners, and I think that was a great decision. Folks, by the government.
There are many sponsors.
Continue in that same direction, especially in the issue of healthcare, that they will continue to come up with bold initiatives to ensure that the people of New Brunswick, especially rural New Brunswick, have the primary health care that they deserve and need. So that's certainly one area, but I think again on the economy, it's incumbent that we move ahead, and we can't just do cuts and austerity. We really need a plan to grow the economy and move the economy, and I'm hoping to hear from the Premier in that regard. I think you and I have discussed in the past the opportunities in emerging, trending private business sector, technology, cybersecurity. For an example, we know that by 2024 there's going to be 3 million jobs worldwide created in cybersecurity, and here we are in Fredericton, and we've already have a great footprint. We know at the Knowledge Park and the construction of the new cybersecurity building. This is a real opportunity for New Brunswick, and I'm hoping to hear from the Premier that in emerging, trending sectors such as this, that we'll get New Brunswick on the right track and in those areas as well.
Absolutely. And I think you're completely right in terms of those emerging sectors. And one thing that the business community we hear from across the province is that New Brunswick has to be seen by the world as a place that is open for business. And I'm curious about your thoughts in terms of how we're doing and what more that government can do to help to facilitate a really positive brand, not only for the rest of Canada, but the rest of the world.
Well, I endorse what you just said 100%. We really have to make it known that New Brunswick is open for business. We need a license plate on our province that says economic opportunity here in New Brunswick. And what I remarked and noted, and to a great degree of success in some of the provinces, the premiers of those provinces are out traveling across the world, to Europe, to Asia. They're knocking on doors, trying to find and identifying businesses, and entrepreneurs and investors that are coming to their provinces to set up business. So that's another thing that I would encourage our Premier to copy that model and to take an active role in traveling to different countries and identifying potential investors to come here to New Brunswick. And I think the bottom line on that is what we really need to do is ensure that the environment here in the province is welcoming to investors, less regulation, less bureaucracy, and certainly less red tape, so that they know that they're welcomed, that they can come here, set up, and invest in our province.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Vickers, certainly appreciate your service. We're looking forward to what the year has to come for you and the Liberal Party, and appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye now. All right, for those of you just joining us, we are still here at the Fredericton Convention Centre for the annual State of the Province address hosted by the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, and we're just awaiting Premier Higgs to deliver his second State of the Province address. We're hearing from top political leaders from across the province, and right now I have the privilege of being joined by the Honourable Mary Wilson, who is the Minister of Economic Development and Small Business. So Minister Wilson, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Good to see you.
Pleasure. Happy to be here.
Good to see you. So, Minister Wilson, I know that the economy and economic development is a top of mind for many New Brunswickers and certainly for the business community. Sure. And I'm curious, if we look back at the past year since the government has been in power and you as Minister, what would be the top highlights for the economy in New Brunswick over the past year in your view?
It has been a very exciting, productive year, and I've been very proud to be a big part of this. And energizing the private sector, of course, is one of the top pillars of our Premier's plan going forward. So some of the things that affect the business sector that have been very important for us to address, one is WorkSafe New Brunswick. It was we were in a very bad position with WorkSafe when we took office, and immediately the next day our Premier had the CEO and staff of WorkSafe in his office to figure out what we were going to do. So we've had two significant reductions, January 1 of last year and again this year. So I think that gives the business sector some confidence that they know that we know how important this is for them, and we'll continue to work hard on that moving forward. Red tape reduction is a big issue for small businesses and businesses in general. It's something that I experienced with them in my previous career. I heard from them all the time how bad it was for them. So we're mirroring a model in the province of Nova Scotia that they've already worked out all the bugs on how to reduce regulation here in the province of New Brunswick. And we have a commitment at this point in dollar value to reduce that by $14 million in time and effort by March 31st, 2021. And the message I'd like to pass on to the business sector right now is your chance. Let us know what those problems are, because we don't know unless you tell us. So that's a big one. Also, when it comes to the business navigator that we put into place, again, mirroring something that's been done in the province of Nova Scotia. It's worked well there for the last 3 years, and we've sat down with them. We've implemented the program in October of 2019. So now the would-be entrepreneur, the existing entrepreneur, they have a toll-free number they can call. They have an email they can send to us, nav@navmb.ca is the email, and we can help them through the confusion of how they start their business. Who do you call? So there are 2 bilingual navigators right now that are available, and I'm sure that's going to grow with the demand as time goes by. With each department, we have 2 leads in each department that the navigators can call to get the answers and get back to that business owner. So one point of contact, and it'll save them tremendous amounts of time. Another big one for this government here in the province of New Brunswick is not following the federal government's passive income rules that they put in place January 1st, 2019. We're only one of 2 provinces in the country who said no, that we're not going to do that. And for the approximate 400 larger businesses here in the province of New Brunswick, that means that we're not going to be increasing their 2.5% corporate tax rate on the first $500,000 of corporate taxable income up to 14%. Retroactive to January 1st, 2019. Where all the other provinces, the businesses there are probably going to experience approximately a 10 to 13% increase. So business owners in this province know we've got their back, and we're going to do whatever we can do to help them. be successful.
Certainly sounds like it's been a busy year for you.
It has,
yes.
indeed.
Curious, a lot of emerging opportunities as the economy changes, not only in New Brunswick or Canada, but worldwide. And there are many sectors that New Brunswick may have a potential comparative advantage to versus other regions. I'm curious, from your perspective, what type of sectors in the economy are you keeping your eye on, and do you see growth potential that New Brunswickers could look forward to?
Well, I think that question ties in with a very important issue that we're addressing right now, and that's the fact that over the next 10 years, we're going to lose 120,000 workers due to retirement. And certainly healthcare is a big area where we have to concentrate. So tying in again with the importance of immigration, we've committed to bringing in a minimum of 7,500 new immigrants every year between now and 2024. So all of that's very important to the province of New Brunswick, growing our economy. The trade sectors is also very important. A lot of tradespeople are at retirement age now, so encouraging the trades. And we're also working with the schools. We have different departments that we're all working together to get into the school system to encourage young people to work towards a career that they can stay right here in the province of New Brunswick. We don't want to lose our young people outside of the province. We want to keep them right here. So we're going to do everything we can. Cybersecurity, it's a big one. If young people wonder if there's going to be work in that field when they get out of high school, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And, speaking of young people and keeping them here and attracting immigrants, we also want to attract investment. And I know that for the business community, having a brand not only in the province or in Canada, but worldwide for foreign direct investment, and that New Brunswick is open for business, very top of mind. What are your thoughts on being able to foster that type of brand?
It's very important. Investment attraction is huge for the province of New Brunswick, and keeping that tax base fair to start with is huge. Making sure it's easy for people to manage their way through the regulations and how to manage through the process to get here. We're going to do everything that we can to make that better. So fostering innovation, top priority, embracing new technologies, whatever we can do to make sure that New Brunswick is the place to be.
I know we're just moments away from the Premier's address. I'm curious, what excites you about the year to come, and what can New Brunswickers look forward to?
Well, economic growth, the potential, what we're going to see coming here, energizing the private sector. And what's really interesting is how well all of our departments work together. So we're one department, really, when you get right down to it, because economic development touches on every department out there, and we all work so well together. It's really a pleasure to be working. When you consider agriculture, aquaculture, fisheries, that's all economic development. Post-secondary education, training, and labor, that all ties in as well with economic development. Education, there's no question.
I apologize, Minister.
Time's up.
I am going to have to go. We're going to turn it now to the floor for the Premier's address. Thank you.
I want to be part of a generation which took no action. So good evening and welcome, Premier Minister Hicks, Ministre, invité distingué, Madame et Messieurs.
Les invités, mesdames et messieurs,
It's
ladies
my
and
pleasure and
gentlemen.
honor to be here tonight. It's the 8th consecutive time that someone from Siemens has stood at this podium. It's my 3rd time as the CEO of Siemens Canada. And I must say that we Siemens are extremely, extremely proud to be part of the New Brunswick business community. I'd like to bring back your attention to the video and to our planet. So now we know that no action will result in a 4-degree increase in the global temperature by the end of the century. There is a new report which suggests that 300 million people will be endangered by rising sea levels by 2050. That's like the population of the United States of America. By that same time, the global population would have increased from 7.6 billion today to 10 billion, thus significantly increasing the demand on resources and energy from this planet. Now, early on I said, we are proud to be part of the New Brunswick business community. And I know what you were thinking, Susan wrote it in my speech and I have to say that. No, I say this because as people are thinking of taking action, we here in New Brunswick started taking tangible action 8 years ago with the NB Power Smart Grid program. So now imagine when my friend Troy is sitting there and Keith sitting there, when they get up on a cold winter morning, they switch on their coffee machines, they take a shower, hot shower, ramp up their heating. There is a morning peak created, which in order to be managed sustainably would require a brand new power plant. Yes, a brand new power plant, more than $1 billion and a lot of carbon emissions. And that's the challenge with which in 2013, the visionary leader of NB Power, Ketan Thomas, came to Siemens. And since then, our teams sitting on those tables work together on a solution with which we will be able to manage the peak rather than build a new power plant. Today, New Brunswick citizens have the opportunity to reduce peak demand. They can also manage their own costs by that. There are more than 1,200 customers with NB Power dispatchable water heaters. And there are a number of grocery stores, municipalities, industrial and commercial buildings which are participating in the peak rebate program. So now this partnership in innovation led to the creation of the Smart Grid Innovation Network, which is a partnership between Siemens, NB Power, and the University of New Brunswick. And it's basically a joint testing platform to stimulate innovation and product development for the next generation electricity system by our local entrepreneurs. So I'm really proud to say that today we have 44 local companies which have applied for the Smart Grid Innovation Network. We have 28 companies who have received services like product validation, technical mentorship, and there are 7 companies who have access to lab funding. So the innovative products these companies are producing here will not only help decarbonize the energy sector in New Brunswick, but they also find their place all around the globe. So we all know that, a strong smart grid program, we are talking about digitalization, just requires a strong cybersecurity backbone. And that is the reason Siemens decided to move its global cybersecurity center of competence to Fredericton. And now cybersecurity is becoming... Thank you. So cybersecurity is becoming quite an issue. The cost of cybersecurity attacks around the globe are estimated at $600 billion. That's 1% of the global GDP. By 2025, 30 billion devices will be connected to the Internet of Things. So when we talk about cybersecurity, we have to divide into 2 elements. One, IT cybersecurity, your data. The other one, industrial cybersecurity, which is we call OT cybersecurity. Now imagine you're driving through a crossing and the traffic light is green on both sides. This is what industrial cybersecurity is about. It's about protecting our critical infrastructure. So I'm really happy to announce that at the moment we have almost 14 people, employees, who are working here in Fredericton. They are backed by about 1,000 cybersecurity experts, Siemens experts from around the world. And I must say, it's only in Canada this can happen. We have such a diverse team. We have people from South America, from Middle East, from China, from India, from all over the place, and we have this team of experts working here. I like to call it the Avengers team because they are protecting our infrastructure. And they have been extremely busy, our Avengers, working on protecting the critical infrastructure in New Brunswick. But also, I'm proud to say that they are helping other Canadian provinces protect their infrastructure, critical infrastructure. So now I'd like you to raise your hands. If you could do that, raise your hand, don't be shy. I want to see here. Because I want to do a poll which is from 0 to 10. And I want to ask you as a crowd here, is the world doing enough for climate change? And if you say yes, we are doing more than enough. We are like centuries ahead, then it's a 10. And if you say we are doing nothing, then it's a 0. So now, what's your rating? Hold on, keep your hands up, yeah? Yeah, now look around, you can see, okay, somewhere 2, 1, yeah? Yeah, so if I look around, I would see an average of 3 or 4, because there are 2s, 1, 5, yeah? So we are doing something, but we are not doing enough. And that's the reason we here in New Brunswick brought the things to the next level by our Smart Grid Atlantic program, which was announced last year. It's a partnership between NB Power, Nova Scotia Power, and Siemens. And we are going to, it's a $92 million research and development project, which is financed by the federal government with $36 million with the Strategic Innovation Fund. And it's all happening here in the Atlantic Canada. And I am not sure if everybody in this room understands the significance of this project. We are creating the energy system of the future right here in Atlantic Canada. So when we talk about decarbonization, and we all said we are not doing enough, when we talk about decarbonization, we have to look at 2 sectors. It's the energy sector and the transportation sector. From the sequence, we have to decarbonize the energy sector first and then the transportation sector, because you wouldn't want to charge your electric cars with fossil fuel. Yeah? So decarbonization of the energy sector means moving from fossil generation to renewable generation. And this is the right thing to do for the planet. But we also have to admit, and I can bring our global experience, that energy transition brings its challenges. There are challenges in managing demand and supply of electricity. Because the renewable sources are not as reliable as the conventional one. There are challenges in managing peak. And basically, this overall structure of the energy system changes from a centralized model to a decentralized model. And the bottom line is, to cut the story short, energy transition is a very expensive proposition. And it becomes an economic and a political burden. And this is exactly the problem we will solve here in Fredericton, or Atlantic Canada. So we are creating a system which will facilitate the integration of renewable energy sources. It will consist of microgrids, which will increase the resiliency of the grid, and it will have a state-of-the-art energy system platform, which will allow to optimize the overall system, but also allow everyone to participate in the energy market. So this system, once it's ready, will not only accelerate decarbonization, energy transition in Atlantic Canada, but for the world. So now I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our partners, University of New Brunswick, many partners in the ecosystem, but especially Nova Scotia Power. Scott, you are here representing Emera, and NB Power for co-creating this system with us. And also thank you for you providing us the assets, the assets, so we can really test this system on real assets and in real time. And this will make the big difference. I'd like to also give a big thank to communities in Atlantic Canada, especially the community of Shediac, where 519 families, households have come in front and said, we want to create the system of the future together with you, and they are voluntary, and they are part of this program. So a big thank to them. So now, before I introduce the Premier, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank somebody. That's Ketan Thomas, the CEO of NB Power. Ketan has decided to retire. So Ketan, today I can say anything about you, but I won't. But Ketan, your passion and vision to solve the energy transition for the world, not only for Fredericton or New Brunswick, is really inspiring. And actually, it helped Siemens bring 2 global center of competences, Smart Grid, and cybersecurity to Fredericton, which has created hundreds of jobs in this province. I'd like to also commend you for your courage to drive innovation. My company is 172 years old, and we have survived so long because the basis of our company is innovation. We have 7,000 inventions every year. That's about 30 inventions every working day. And we know that driving a company, driving innovation requires courage, because most of these inventions are not successful. But the ones which are, create an everlasting impact. So I thank you, Ketan. It's been a pleasure and an honor. So now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce the Premier of New Brunswick. It's also time for me to take out my glasses, because there I don't want to make any mistake here. So Premier Higgs, first elected to the Legislative Assembly on September 27, 2010. Blaine Higgs served as a Minister of Finance from 2010 to 2014. He was re-elected in 2014 and then in 2018, representing the riding of Coast-Pamsis. On October 22, 2016, he was elected leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick. Born in Woodstock, Premier Higgs graduated from the University of New Brunswick with a Bachelor in Mechanical Engineering. Following university, he joined Irving Oil Limited, where he held numerous positions of increasing responsibility in engineering, refining operations, in transportation sector, and in the transportation sector. Prior to retirement in 2010, he was Director of Logistics and Distribution, with overall responsibility for the transportation of bulk storage requirements of reliable supply of refined products to customers throughout Eastern Canada, but also New England. He has also served on the board of directors for Canaport LNG and the New Brunswick Gateway Council. He has traveled extensively for both business and pleasure. The insight learned through his interactions with different cultures provides him with appreciation for the challenges the New Brunswick faces in the global economy. A long-term resident of Coast-Pamsis, he's married to Marcia, and the couple have 4 daughters: Lindsay, Laura, married to Reed Gilmore, Sarah, married to Jeff Wilkinson, and Rachel, who sang the national anthem, such amazing voice, married to Matt Hills. They are also blessed with 4 grandchildren: Nadia, Alexander, Samuel, and Sadie. He was sworn in as the Premier of New Brunswick on November 9th, 2018. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we will show you a short video about Premier Blaine Higgs. Thank you very much.
It's a game changer in zero emissions, in a whole new technology that is not utilized, doesn't exist today. So if we don't look at that, the small portion of our energy consumption in this world that is actually supplied by wind or solar or renewables will never sustain us globally. It will continue to go well beyond what our demands are. So we have that need right now to develop technology that will put Canada back on the world stage where it belongs, as a global emission reduction leader.
You know, cut ourselves off, shut the lights out, and wander around the dark here hoping for the best in the meantime. Let's utilize what we have. Let's spend our money like Norway has to invest in new technology and build our future, not just cut it off at the knees and try to survive. You know, how many people do you think will be now over the next couple of days? How many people?
So right now we have almost close to 200 that'll be started being employed this afternoon.
Excellent. Et les personnels, c'est extraordinaire.
Oui.
We're excited about the presentation. At the end of the day, I always like to have an action plan, so we can end the meeting with saying, okay, this is the next step. And I've had different discussions, and if I had the ability as Premier to do any of these things, I'd just do it.
Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen,
accueillons le Premier ministre,
the Premier
our
of New
very own
Brunswick,
Premier, Honorable Blaine Higgs, tout le monde.
Merci. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's a great event, and it's certainly well attended. Vous avez une photo dans la vidéo.
you've seen the photos. I want to recognize Guy Cormier from St. Leonard.
He never really got to the point where I was Premier. He always called me Primer. And what a passionate man he was for his community and for the area, and he died very suddenly a few weeks ago. Let me say thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you to the members of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce for hosting this unique opportunity for premiers of our province dating back to 1974. This has provided a unique perspective to all New Brunswickers on the state of our province. I also want to just thinking back to the servers tonight. Now, I was told that many of the servers and many of the folks in the kitchen tonight were from the NBC College in St. Andrews, NBCC. So thanks for being here. So the food was great, and I guess we were all test specimens tonight. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici ce soir.
It's a great opportunity to be here tonight.
It's the love of my life, my wife Marcia, for accompanying me at this event this evening. When you get this job, this is as good as it gets. This is what date night looks like. But even tonight, we're subdued. Our daughter's with us. And thank you for being here as well, Rachel. It's lovely having you with us. A year ago, when I first had an opportunity to stand before you, I spoke of the need to instill a sense of urgency in our province and create a culture of action. Il y a un lorsque j'ai eu la possibilité de me tenir devant vous pour la première fois,
when I stood before you, I spoke of the need to instill a sense of urgency in our province and create a culture of action.
Tackling this was a first step, and it was critical. And here's why. Every time I sit on an airplane, when the attendant explains that in case of an incident or an emergency, an oxygen mask will deploy. So far, so good. But then the attendant always says, please put on your own oxygen mask first before helping others, including your own children or elderly. Every time I hear this, I have a sense of guilt. But then I reflect on it, and I understand. I understand that it's because I must preserve my ability to help others, and without oxygen, it's impossible. This is no different in government. Government must be strong and in a good position to protect its citizens and withstand the challenges and emergencies that may arise. Good government with good policies can be a great benefit to society. Une bonne gouvernement avec des bonnes politiques peut être très bénéfique pour le
A good government with good policies can be very beneficial to society.
do everything. Mais on ne peut pas descendre.
But we can't expect government to do everything.
Government actions can strangle us. They can drag us down. They can suffocate us with high taxes. They can drive people away to work in other provinces. And they can make our businesses uncompetitive by driving up costs. It is a vicious cycle. C'est un cercle vicieux.
It's a vicious
The worst
cycle.
is when the government has to step in to prop up industry sectors that became uncompetitive because their costs to operate climbed too high. The urgency I spoke of about last year continues. The difference is we've established our foundation and we have a plan to breathe new oxygen into our province. Nous avons cité de masse et nous avons un plan.
We have laid a foundation and we have a plan for the future.
We hit the ground running last year. From the beginning, taking charge, being bold, and this will continue. Tonight, I'm introducing an ambitious goal for our province to change our path and make fundamental changes in one generation. It's time to imagine a new New Brunswick. C'est le temps d'imaginer un nouveau.
It's time to imagine a new New Brunswick.
Where our children receive the best possible education and graduate as equals, being able to converse in both official languages. A New Brunswick with a thriving economy and growing labor force. A Nouveau-Brunswick avec une économie prospère et une population.
A New Brunswick with a flourishing economy and a growing workforce.
And pursue your dreams. A Nouveau-Brunswick où il est possible de vivre et d'élever une famille.
A New Brunswick where you can live, raise a family, and complete your dreams.
Where we work in sustainable ways for our people and our planet. A New Brunswick where everyone can be the best they can be. A Nouveau-Brunswick où tout le monde peut réaliser.
A New Brunswick where everyone can be everything they can be.
You know, we can do more than just imagine this. Ce n'est pas simplement un rêve. Nous pouvons en faire une réalité.
What we dream of, we can make a reality.
New Brunswick, our reality. And we will do it because we have a plan. There's an obvious gap between where we are now and where we want to be. There are no quick fixes. And no one person has all the answers. It starts at the top. We need to demand more from political leaders. We need to demand choices to be made for betterment of New Brunswick and not the betterment of any political party. We need to stop saying I can't and instead say I will. Il faut arrêter de dire, je ne peux pas.
We have to stop saying I can't, and we have to say I will do it.
I refuse to accept that we are being branded amongst the poorest provinces in Canada. Tonight, I want to bring our focus back to the mission I asked you to support 1 year ago. I want to review some of the progress we have made together over the last year. Government is not a business for profit, but it should be a business that delivers better service to its customers, the citizens of this province.
Thank you to the over 40,000 small business owners in the province. We celebrate you this week and every week of the year.
We're trying to build a better relationship with First Nations, and putting the eagle feather into the court system is something it's respectful, it's reconciliation, and it's recognition for a culture that we need to understand and appreciate in our province.
Votre dévouement et votre passion à améliorer.
Your passion and for wanting to make things better in our schools, help our students learn better and explore the world and solve problems. I know people of New Brunswick know that the best places to visit are in the province. You'll find the nicest people, and that we have one of the best provinces in Canada.
Coordinating and implementing programs and initiatives aimed at making life better for women and promoting the benefits of having women in positions of influence and leadership.
At the close of the third session of the 59th Legislative Assembly, our government passed legislation on matters that have a direct impact on the lives of New Brunswickers, including changes to workers' compensation, health care, and binding arbitration that protects nursing home residents, reflects our province's financial reality, and respect the right of workers. We reclassified paramedics as medical professionals. We made the decision to privatize cannabis sales, and we have received a number of proposals. We have pledged to do more than double New Brunswick's protected and conserved land and fresh water from 4.6% to 10%. We're doing this because conserving natural resources is important. It's an important part of the overall approach to meeting forest and land management objectives and protecting our environment. We developed a Made in New Brunswick carbon tax plan. Nous avons élaboré un projet de taxe sur
We
le
put
carbone
together
adapté à la situation de New Brunswick.
tax
A new standing
proposal
committee
on
was created in the
carbon
legislature
tax
that will be responsible
adapted to
for
our
government efforts
situation.
on climate change and other environmental issues. And thank you to Bruce Fitch for leading this important initiative for our government. We are serious about providing world-class education in our province. We released the Green Paper. We held an education summit, and the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development is currently taking part in a regional consultation tour to hear from New Brunswickers on the future education of our province. We're working with local governments and the local service districts on priority municipal reform areas, including property tax reform, regional service commission improvements, and making it more attractive for communities to come together. We're working directly with municipalities and to make life easier for them, to make it more affordable for them and look at the issues they really have. We're listening to every community. We
are working with local government and the local services district on priority subjects for municipal reform. For example, for property tax and better work at the regional services commissions, and finding other ways for communities to collaborate more.
We're taking steps in building relationships with our First Nations. We are introducing the Eagle Feather into the New Brunswick court system. We've been working with our Indigenous leaders and elders to get their input and to make sure that we do things properly and respectfully. We are also pleased to host the inaugural Premier's Chiefs meeting in November. These initial discussions were an important first step in building a framework for government-to-government dialogue going forward. Would anyone in this room have anticipated we could have accomplished so much? We had a plan, and we have a plan going forward. These are just some of the important steps that have been taken on your behalf, but we didn't do it alone. I am proud of the leadership shown in the legislature by not only our MLAs, but those beyond our party lines, standing together in New Brunswick for New Brunswick's best interests and doing what is right, not what is popular. It's time for New Brunswick to let the world know we are back on track and we have a plan. It is time
for New Brunswick to let the world know that we are back on track. and that we have a
We're
plan.
being deliberate. Our future is what we will make of it. Change isn't always comfortable. It's certainly not easy, but it is necessary. Our motto in my former workplace was work is fun and change is good. Anyone who's ever renovated their house knows it can be messy. At times you might even wonder if you're going forward or backwards, or why you even started at all. You wonder if you'll ever see the end. And yes, some days you may want to stop. Stop everything, which is the danger here. But then you remember your plans, your vision, and you know how much better it will be. You realize that even though there's a lot of work ahead, it'll be worth it. We're not here for the next election. We are here for the next generation.
We're not here for the next election. We are here for the next generation.
Well, after only 1 year, our foundation is so much stronger. We refuse to accept increased debt as a way of life, which brings me to this interesting fact. Remember the fall of 2018? The previous government was forecasting a deficit of just under $200 million. In addition, and this is hard to imagine, over $1 billion of new spending had been promised during that election. Our province was facing an imminent credit downgrade. Notre province, face à face, une baisse imminente.
Our province was facing a credit downgrade, an imminent one.
Was on par with private sector spending, which is a dire situation on its own. Not only were we living off our line of credit, but we were, as a province, maxing all of our credit cards. Unnecessary public spending under the philosophy of creating jobs and growing the economy will never be sustainable. We are now showing growth in the private sector. The private sector has now been stimulated. And the gap between public and private investment in New Brunswick is widening, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to balancing the budget for the second year in a row, the net debt is projected to go down by $233 million. That is a direct result of having a plan. And speaking of plans, I've asked NB Power to develop a plan to reduce their unacceptable debt level without impacting rates, and they're equal to the task. Je demande
I asked NB Power to set up immediately a plan to reduce its unacceptable debt level without having any effect on the rates.
Interest each and every year by reducing that debt by $233 million. And we will reinvest that money. Over the next 10 years, that amounts to $100 million less in interest. That's a lot of money for nothing. And it's nothing if you can't have better service, if you can't deliver better results for the people that pay the taxes. And that's why it's important to get control of the money you spend and reduce the interest you paid. Instead of paying interest, we will address the serious addiction and mental health issues we're facing in our society. Suicide has become a province-wide crisis. It seems every week we are hearing stories of someone who has taken their own life. My own community has suffered several losses this year. I want to thank Social Development Minister Dorothy Shepherd for leading the way on this initiative. She has led roundtable discussions, is gathering facts, and bringing together subject matter experts on this topic. The work being done is unprecedented. There are no easy answers. Thank you, Dorothy. There are no easy answers, but our government is committed. This is an issue that cannot be ignored. We will continue to take action to find real solutions to support New Brunswickers and their families. We need to be realistic. We will need to spend more in health care each and every year going forward. We must, however, adopt new and innovative ways to ensure we provide the quality of health care services our citizens deserve. And we must protect our health care by making it sustainable and dependable. Nous devons protéger nos soins de santé et le rendant viable et fiable.
We have to protect our health care by making it viable and dependable.
45 and rising. It costs 8 times more to care for those over 80 than those under 65. And we have major labor shortages. In the last 16 months alone, we've seen 23 service interruptions, meaning people can't get critical surgeries and services they need. It's a well-understood fact that our healthcare system needs 1,300 more nurses over the next decade just to maintain what we have. 40% of our laboratory technicians are due to retire over the next 5 years. This is real, and it's happening now. We have all heard stories of the people waiting on stretchers in hospital hallways, and recently one hospital had to turn people away. At that time, more than half of our acute care beds are being occupied by seniors waiting for long-term care. We need real solutions developed by our professionals. Politicians need to get out of the way, and politics has no place in healthcare. I recently met the chairs and the CEOs of the health authorities. They are competent, dedicated professionals who know what they are doing. They were hired because they are experts in managing a very complex system. We need to let them manage their affairs. I believe the health authorities have the solutions, and you will be learning more about that in the coming weeks from our Minister of Health and the health authority CEOs themselves. Mesdames et Messieurs,
ladies and
I
gentlemen,
also want to recognize the people who make up the public service of our province. Public service is really the right descriptions. I see people going beyond the call of duty every day to make our province a better place. I know I'm not the easiest. Sometimes I can be just a bit demanding. But I care, and I do believe that people respect that, they understand it. And I'm not here for the goodness of my health. I believe they care deeply too. We have 53,000 employees, and I believe every one of them want to deliver better results for the people that they work for, the citizens of our province. And I've asked for their help. I want to listen to the experts in the field, both inside of government and outside of government, because we need their voices. And we then need them every day when they go to work to say, I can do something a little bit different, a little bit better, and I have an idea. And every idea is worth consideration. We have priorities. Within each priority area, we put in place a detailed action plans with targets, outcomes, clear measurements. Kind of sounds like an engineer, doesn't it? Which we will publish for all New Brunswickers to see. We have management systems in place, like most of you in business would already have. You will be able to see how your government is working more frequently and more accurately than ever before.
you'll be able to see how your government is doing, like you never could before.
Only lasts so long as the party's in power. With each election cycle, any progress is halted, and we start fresh, or even go backwards, rather than building on what was already begun. We've seen it over and over again. But the decision to do things differently isn't only happening within government. The private sector is also stepping up and doing things on their own. Earlier this month, Corridor Resources announced a new leadership that is pledging a renewed push to pursue the shale gas moratorium exemption. It also announced that it has secured $50 million in financing. Our team opened the door to this opportunity by removing barriers. That decision allowed investors to gain the confidence to once again look at this company and our province. The role of government is to create an environment where companies can thrive, and that is what we're doing, because, friends, we have a plan. In economic development, our focus is on renewing confidence in our province, in our economy, in our labor force, in the New Brunswick brand. Nous travaillons pour
we are working to renew trust in our province, confidence, and in our economy and in our workforce.
How can we lessen our dependence on corporate incentives? How can we prepare for shifting global trends? Comment pouvons-nous préparer?
How can we get ready to face the global tendencies?
A natural magnet for outside investment. Back when I first became Premier, I went to visit Roxanne Fairweather, the chair of ONB, the board of ONB. And I think Roxanne was apprehensive when I asked for the meeting. I went to her office in St. John. And when I met with her, she said, you know, I'm prepared to step down as chair. And I said, Roxanne, I'm not asking you to step down. I'm asking you to step up. Because we need your help to define what ONB should be doing to help businesses, not only in our province, but to attract businesses to invest in our province. And I have to say, she has done just that with the board of ONB. We asked ONB to do something totally different. We asked them to start with a blank piece of paper, to imagine what could be achieved if we freed ourselves from the way things have always been done, to build a new vision and a plan with specific outcomes for economic growth in our province. And we asked them to consider how we could make it stick beyond the next election. At the outset, they engaged the experts around our province, around the country, and around the world to find out what we're missing and how we need to do things differently. Second, they chose to make this a living plan. For the last 20 years, economic development plans have come in the form of a long and glossy document that no one ever reads, let alone acts upon. They didn't want that. We didn't want that. We wanted engagement, ownership, and shared accountability. What you'll hear tonight is a first step. There will be heavy lifting in the coming months to transition the team and make these strategies come alive. I would be remiss if I did not thank the ONB board who supported a rigorous mandate review with outside involvement, as well as many advisors and volunteers who gave generously of their time and talent through this process and who will continue to tap into and as we roll up our sleeves to do better. I also want to thank you CEO Stephen Lund. Stephen will soon close out a 5-year mandate. We wish him well in the future and his future endeavors. Stephen has been a leader in this field. He's represented us well throughout this, not only Canada, but throughout other countries as well. We convened a group of advisors from academia, business, and technology. People such as Paul Mergereau, our new president of UNB, who brings vast experience from Australia and fresh insights to create a new, bold strategy for UNB. And we convened people that could help us and come to a whole new way of thinking. Nicole LeBlanc from NB also, who leads Sidewalk Labs for Google in Toronto, was part of the process. ONB also hosted the Technology Investment Roundtable in Toronto to signal that we are back in business. Frank McKenna hosted us in his boardroom. We brought in Canada's foremost leaders in the digital era to encourage their ideas and their investments in our province. Nous avons fait appel aux plus grands chefs d'État.
We called upon the greatest leaders of Canada in the digital field to encourage their ideas and their investments in our province.
These are companies who otherwise would not even be thinking about New Brunswick. Pinterest, Instagram, Omers, and more. And now we're on their radar. Here at home, we engaged our economists, municipal economic development agencies, industry associations, technology sector groups, and numerous business leaders, including many who are with us tonight. What I am about to share with you represents their thinking, their advice, their expertise. What we heard, essentially, that we need to embrace a pro-growth agenda, and we need to do it now. Ce que nous avons entendu,
essentially, what we heard is that we need to adopt a favorable program to growth.
We need to declare New Brunswick is open for business, and we absolutely must embrace challenging targets like closing the gap in 1 generation. Consider for a moment what reaching a population of 1 million by 2040 would look like for New Brunswick. This kind of population growth would allow us to surpass current projections for real GDP and employment growth. In 2040, real GDP would be nearly $15 billion higher than 2018. And the employment workforce would increase by 100,000. Increase in a private sector investment and improving our productivity performance would grow our economy even further. How are we going to get there? Effective immediately, we are changing the scope of how MB operates to drive economic growth in this province. In order to accomplish our plan, we have 5 enablers. The first one, immigration and citizens of the future. We recognize people drive economic growth, and therefore we need ONB to play a much larger role in workforce attraction. We have a looming skills gap that we will see 120,000 jobs become available in the next 10 years. It's critical we attract more newcomers and retain more youth. Il est essentiel d'attirer
It's essential to attract newcomers and to retain more people.
We have a plan, and we have set targets, and we are beginning to see the progress. For the third quarter, our labor force participation rates for those 20 to 29 years of age have continued to grow and are now over 82%. Age 30 to 54 has remained relatively steady at nearly 84%. We are growing New Brunswick. We have exceeded targets for the number of new immigrants in the last 2 quarters. However, we still have more to do and set our targets higher. Nous sommes en croissance au Nouveau-Brunswick.
We have experienced growth in New Brunswick. We surpassed the goals for new immigrants for the last 2 quarters, but we still have work to do.
Right now, we have set a target of attracting 7,500 newcomers every year for our province by 2024. It is actually the limit of what the federal government will currently allow. We can go even further if we have that opportunity. That's why New Brunswick will be aggressively pursuing the federal government to increase our immigration intake to at least 10,000 newcomers a year. Premier Stephen McNeil in Nova Scotia often says his population is higher than it has ever been, and the unemployment rate is lower than it has ever been. He attributes that to immigration. Attracting the right kind of skills and investment will be critical to our success. Attirer les bonnes compétences.
To attract the right skills and the right investments will be critical for our success.
We want to do just what was done with HCL in Moncton, over and over again. HCL is an IT company with 140,000 employees globally and operations in 44 countries. In October, they announced 300 jobs with plans to grow. 80% of those jobs are newcomers who have families who will be joining them. The rest is job creation for our new graduates. This is the kind of exciting investment we need throughout our province. To facilitate more of this kind of growth, I'm pleased to tell you tonight that New Brunswick will open an office in India with the purpose of attracting talent and international investment. India is an important market for us with proven models and partnership. The University of New Brunswick surpassed its application targets this past fall. We have full-time recruiters in the market in partnership with 7 universities. There were tremendous opportunities both in agriculture, engineering, forestry, and nursing. We have an Indian farmer that was located in Bugtouche. And in the last several years, this investment started because there was an opportunity that was seen in New Brunswick. 3 years ago, this family from India looked at our local growing conditions and the global growing calendar and decided we were perfectly situated for their new agricultural venture. And they were told it couldn't be done in New Brunswick. They planted 1 million apple trees in the Bugtouche region. The trees are in the ground and had beautiful apples last year. By 2025, they are expecting to be the largest exporter to Europe and India of apples in Canada. And you know what made me even more excited when I went to visit their orchard last September? They did not ask for one government dollar. We need more of that. They chose New Brunswick because it made sense for them. This
family chose New Brunswick because it was the logical choice for them.
And that is what we need. We need to leverage this and create linkages for more economic investment, more businesses that want to settle here in New Brunswick. ONB has set up a Navigator program, and the purpose of the Navigator program is to be that single point of contact. The contact where you make one call and the Navigator takes you through all the departments in government and make sure that you get the answers to the businesses you're looking at, the regulatory requirements around it, environmental requirements, and that the job gets done in a manner that's important to business. I recognize the importance that business has a sense of urgency. Government needs that same sense of urgency because that's how we get things done. Attracting newcomers is one thing. Retaining them is another. That's why we'll develop a new program for immigrants to act as an advocate, cut red tape, or assist with this process to gain professional credentials. Nous allons élaborer un nouveau
So we will come up with a new program for immigrants, and this program will defend their interests, reduce red tape, and help them get credentials.
Private sector investment. As we embrace a pro-growth agenda, government decisions must consider the impact on the economy and on the needs of business. Business owners don't want to meet with multiple government departments and retell their story every time they want to have an expansion plan. We're proposing to standardize all economic development funding so that any applications will be assessed with the same criteria and through a single point of contact. This process will be fully transparent with the goal to eliminating political interference. ONB will also have a renewed focus on large projects and will act as a guide through the regulatory process. We must continue to increase private sector investment in our province. We have a target of 2% a year for growth by 2027. That will have New Brunswick reversing the downward trajectory we have seen in recent years. And it will see an injection of $3 billion in private sector investment. As a government, I know we can work with the private sector and create an environment that creates confidence for investors.
As a government, I know that we will be able to work with the private sector and create an environment that will inspire trust in investors.
And diversify exports. Next, we heard from the New Brunswick Business Council and others that we need to do a better job helping New Brunswick businesses sell globally. Only 3% of New Brunswick companies export. We must ensure our businesses appreciate their full potential. I mean, we must equip them with the knowledge and support they need to sell outside our borders. Our largest trading partner is the United States, and due to their proximity, they always will be. But there are other markets, and we need to take a closer look and leverage them. The first half of this year, ONB will open an office in Europe to leverage Brexit and to support New Brunswick companies as they seek to grow and diversify their export markets. We know, number 4, the innovation productivity in the future of our work. We know we have to innovate. And nowhere is innovation more important than right in government and how government delivers services. It is the greatest enabler. It is a foundation to greater productivity. We are lagging behind the rest of the country, and we need to close the gap. Thousands of businesses in this province are not reaching their full potential because they are unclear about how to use technology to scale. We need to change that. We are going to make the government a model user. It's time to modernize how we work and how we deliver services to ensure the next wave of innovation doesn't pass us by. ONB is going to work with businesses across the province to facilitate education about the benefits of innovation and productivity. Opportunité Nouveau-Brunswick, FACOLAB.
ONB will work with businesses everywhere in the province to let them know about the innovation and productivity advantages.
By nature, New Brunswick are modest. Our brands need to be globalized. We are often reluctant to blow our own horn. It's time to change that. It's time to be proud of what we do, and it's time to have confidence in what we've done and what we're going to do. We need to talk about how great this province is, and there's plenty to talk about. Nous devons parler de ce qui.
We need to talk about what is excellent in this province, and there are many things.
We're at home to the world's largest independent seafood company, Cook Agriculture. They ship 1 billion pounds of fresh seafood each year to 67 countries. And did you know this? Atlantic Canada is the center of activity for 75% of Canada's ocean economy. Think of the potential we have right here at our doorstep. And what about Siemens, IBM, Exxon, McCain Foods, Irving, Imperial Manufacturing, Barber, Moosehead? Any of these sound familiar? Stable companies worldwide that are investing in the province continually and driving success around the world. It's a focus for many companies that we need to expand upon. Et plus récemment, des marques.
And more recently, brands like Distillerie Fils du Roi. It was created in the Acadian Peninsula in 2011 by Sébastien Roy and his mother, Diane.
Their award-winning spirits have been recognized in international competitions from Berlin to London to San Francisco. Just last week, they added another honor to their wall when they were named among the top whiskeys in Canada. ONB will lead a bold new marketing campaign geared towards repatriating New Brunswickers across the country, attracting immigrants and new investment dollars. We will showcase our success stories, especially those companies that are embracing immigration, exporting globally, and adopting innovation to drive productivity. We must celebrate what we need to see more of in our province, and it's not just companies. We must celebrate exemplary New Brunswickers, people who every single day are closing the gap in their communities. Volunteering makes such a difference in the lives of individuals and in our communities. I encourage each of you to return home to your communities and give your time to support those who need it most. Tonight, I want to recognize Kim Giddens, who is with us this evening. Kim has been teaching at Belle Isle Regional High School for 39 years. Kim, where are you? Stand up if you will. Thank you, Kim. But she has not only been a teacher, she is a volunteer fireman. Firefighter, I gotta be careful, right? She trains our first responders and coordinates the local teams against drunk driving programs. She is a coach and a referee and recently started coaching the Special Olympics basketball team at Belle Isle. On top of all that, she delivers a breakfast program at the school with homemade bread and jam she makes herself. You won't find a more dedicated individual, and we can all learn from her. Thank you so much, Kim. To summarize the 5 areas to deliver ONB strategies, we want to fix our labor shortage, attract more private sector investment, increase exports, drive technology adoption for productivity, and globalize our brand. In addition, ONB has identified 3 very select but comprehensive economic strategies to build out in the coming 3 to 5 years and starting right now. These strategies will give us focus and a bigger return over time. These strategies, the first one is about working smarter and pooling our resources. New Brunswick has a major challenge and we lack scale. Our population and our businesses are spread out across the province. We've been trapped by thinking north-south and urban-rural, even one political riding over another. This mindset is hampering our growth potential. We must stop thinking small. We must start thinking strategically, and we must think globally. ONB is going to create strategic networks across the province for specific industries to connect in new ways so they can leverage economies of scale and export and research. Opportunité Nouvelle-Brunswick,
ONB will establish strategic networks everywhere in the province to allow some industries to associate in new ways and also to leverage scale economies in terms of exports and research.
We must create the kind of advantages that businesses in bigger economic centers possess. We can do this with forestry, high-tech farming, and our aquaculture industries, to name a few. If businesses were connected in more strategic ways, they could grow faster. Models already exist in Europe. We can learn from that, and we can do it here. We do not have to reinvent a wheel that's already turning. We
can reproduce this in our
Second,
province.
we will develop a world-class manufacturing sector by driving productivity through innovative technologies. Several of our companies are leaders today who work and live and invest right here in New Brunswick, leaders around the world. And many other companies have the potential to be leaders and lift their entire supply chains. Automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, and energy efficiency technologies. Achieving a higher level of technological advancement would bring substantial productivity gains to our economy. And it would shine a spotlight on New Brunswick for innovation. A spotlight that's already been mentioned tonight, that is right here in Fredericton. A spotlight on cybersecurity, a spotlight on smart meters and the technology that exists to bring New Brunswick into a whole new way. At the end of the day, if New Brunswick manufacturers are low-cost producers, they will maintain and grow their market share. Third, while it is critical that we support existing businesses, we must look to the future and emerging market opportunities. In the years ahead, ONB will be focused on attracting clusters in 3 emerging sectors: cybersecurity, digital health, and energy innovation.
Over the next few years, ONB will look for clusters in 3 emerging sectors: cybersecurity, digital health, and energy innovations.
In talent pipelines and research capabilities that are nationally recognized and which we must accelerate. We have tremendous success stories already, and we need to promote them. New Brunswick is home to the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity and Canada's chair in cybersecurity research. We are teaching coding in middle school. The Nashwaak Sis Middle Cyber Dragons just placed #1 in Canada in a cyber competition this fall. And this fall, we just launched a Master's in Cybersecurity at UNB. We need to double down and continue to grow. Digital health will be critical to our ability to modernize healthcare service delivery and harness the potential of research and analytics. We're already leaders in areas like genomics, biomedical, engineering, and artificial intelligence. Energy innovation is also the future, and we are differentiating ourselves already. Siemens was just rated #1 globally for their pioneering work in New Brunswick on smart grid. This smart grid system, when it's installed, will allow every household to generate their own renewable energy. Imagine that. But you need a system to manage it first. Furthermore, our work on small nuclear reactors is taking hold. We have a pre-approved site, a history of expertise, the supply chain exists, and we have a reliable grid. This next evolution of energy will reduce carbon, is safe and reliable, and there's nothing stopping us from building these reactors here and shipping them around the world from our global ports in St. John and Belledere. We need to think bigger because we can, and our biggest stumbling block can be ourselves. We must show the world that we are serious. We must focus and build capacity, diversify our economy, and further differentiate our province. Nous devons montrer au monde.
We need to show to the world that we are serious. We need to focus our efforts and strengthen our capacities to diversify our economy.
However, all of these emerging sectors depend on one thing: modern communications infrastructure. The future of robotics, medical devices, and even agricultural machinery will depend on 5G in the future. So we must anticipate this change proactively. We want New Brunswick to be an early adopter for new 5G technology. We want to welcome and innovate interests from telecommunication leaders. We want them to look at New Brunswick to be a fast-paced. We want to be a rapid response government that's prepared to move rocks, move hills, move trees to make things happen for businesses that want to invest. We want to be pilot new technologies. And I know there's been a lot of discussion, and Gaetan, you've taken a fair amount of abuse on Joy Scientific. But there's a certain amount of risk that we all need to take to be innovative. There's a certain amount of money that businesses put into research and development. And over the past, you look at our investment as a province, and we're not quite where we need to be to allow people to innovate, to allow our universities to research a little more, to make sure that we don't compete with each other in the process, but that each university has their own niche and how they can focus on their research and development. And we'll win some and we lose some. But that doesn't mean we don't dare to move forward. And we need to dare. We need to move forward. "5G can be a game changer for New Brunswick. 5G gives us the best bench strength of Toronto, with all the benefits that come with being in New Brunswick. Let's put it into perspective. 3G gave us apps on our phone. 4G allows us to stream video content. 5G will open a world of possibilities that I can't even imagine." So we'll talk to someone else about that. That is exactly in keeping with what we're doing in your government, opening up possibilities and created a climate that restores confidence in our province. You need confidence, and we will give you confidence because we make decisions based on facts. They won't all be ones you like, They won't all be ones that you'll approve of, but you'll realize why we've done it, and I hope the necessity of doing it, because doing nothing is absolutely not an option. As you leave here this evening, I invite you to join us. We're going to close the gap in one generation, and we're going to do it together. Allons-y. We need to ask ourselves what we're willing to do for New Brunswick to prosper. We
must ask ourselves what we're willing to do for New Brunswick to prosper.
This is our future.
C'est
We
notre
must build
futur.
it, and
Nous
we
devons
need
la
your help.
bâtir.
Daring to do what's different must be a collective effort. Even though as a government we're in a minority situation, we will do what's right. You know, I said after the very first, I guess, the confidence vote, and when we got into government, I had an interview. And my comment, they said, wow, that's close. How are you ever going to manage in a minority government? And I said, we have probably a solid foundation like never before. We're a minority government of 25 that couldn't be bought. And that's a foundation to work from, to do things right and what's right all across this province, and make decisions that need to be made, that won't be kicked down to the next generation. And even though in the minority situation, we will continue to do what's right. Balance the budget, reduce the debt load. We'll use that money. The interest that we've saved in that money will be used for critical services. And we'll soon be in a position to make it more affordable to live here in New Brunswick. We have a plan. Confidence is back. We're moving from a have-not province to a can-do province. The question is, are you willing to work with us? Are you willing to close the gap in one generation? Are you willing to identify opportunities that we have to be better? Because I've said it many times before, the one thing you learn when you get to be my age is that you don't know as much as you thought you did when you were 20. So I'm asking for everyone to be part of the solution for our province. And look every day and when you go to work about doing something a little bit more. We have a plan. We can fix this province, and we're on the move. It's in a direction that we'll all be proud of, and we'll look back at where we came from and be amazed at where we are. But it'll only be a start. And the biggest opportunity we have is that every single person looks at it and is part of it. In the civil service, it's my biggest goal, is how do we create a platform that continues to get better? Just like your business. How do you have a business that continues to improve and continues to evolve, and good people come to the surface and want to drive change? And you do that by allowing them the freedom to do it. And our goal is to create a culture of change, a culture of freedom, and a culture of innovation. And we need all 53,000 employees in government, and we need the people of this province to be part of that solution. And with that, we cannot fail. We have a plan. We will succeed. Thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you sincerely
for that great presentation speech tonight. On behalf of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, I'm pleased to announce that for your speech tonight, you are getting a pair of socks. Also, there is a scholarship in your name that's going to the Chamber Scholarship Fund. You have your socks on. That's awesome. Merci infiniment. Siemens,
thank you to Siemens as well et pour votre représentation. Thank you for being here so numerous tonight.
And as you go off into this cold winter evening, I wish you all the best stimulation of your private sectors. God bless.
Thanks to our viewers for joining us this evening for the 46th Annual Fredericton Chamber of Commerce State of the Province Address with the Honourable Blaine Higgs, Premier of the Province of New Brunswick. So our guests tonight were very enthusiastic in their response to your speech. How did you feel after delivering the 46th Annual State of the Province Address with the Fredericton Chamber?
Well, I think it was an exciting evening. You know, we certainly put a lot into covering the ground over this last year and trying to reflect that in our speech. And I know that I feel like the province is building confidence. I think that we've worked through a minority government situation and been able to move the bar on several files, and I feel good about that. And so tonight was kind of a recap, but also a vision of our economic growth potential.
So what's the key message that you hope that New Brunswickers took away from the State of the Province address tonight? What is the biggest message and takeaway for the business community?
We have a plan. We're not doing things by headlines. We're doing it by a methodical process to engage people in the province to be part of a solution. I'm the first to recognize that politicians do not have all the answers, and that but I've met people all over this province that do. In their respective fields of expertise. So our plan is for engagement, our plan is for action in specific areas, to look at the businesses we have in our province and be able to say, you know, how can we expand that business, how can we introduce you to global aspects and capabilities that you wouldn't have even thought of before, and really engagement. So we have a plan, and our plan is to engage others to help us achieve success in this province.
Mm-hmm. That's good news. Last year, you presented your first State of the Province address after being in office for only 83 days. You now have a full year under your belt. What has been the biggest surprise that you've encountered? What's been the biggest challenge? And what are you most proud of?
Well, I guess we're still here in a very slim...
Is that proud of or surprised?
So, well, I guess I'll fit the surprise category. No, I guess I've always believed that if you do what's right and you can explain why you're doing that people will accept that and recognize that it's the right thing to do. And I've been in the House. You know, we've had good support on major files. And I think that says a lot too about you know, our colleagues, both my colleagues and both the colleagues from other parties that are willing to be part of a solution. So I guess we've balanced the budget. We have a debt reduction plan that will allow us to do other things without paying more and more interest. So I feel that we've tackled big files. We're in the middle of big changes, be it in education, be it in our health reform, but we've stabilized our province. Mm-hmm. And people can look at New Brunswick and say, what happened? Well, there was a corner turn, and it was a turn for behavior. Practical behavior would trump political behavior.
Mm-hmm. The Chamber and other organizations have been calling for an innovation strategy. In your speech, you did refer a number of times to innovation, to new strategies for O&B, enablers for growth. What does that mean, and how can the province of New Brunswick be a leader in this regard?
You know, many times we go and pick a whole lot of things, and so we become jack of all trades and masters of none. Cybersecurity has been something that's been touted for some time, but it's zeroing in on what element of that is important to us, and how can we expand that right here with you know, what's known here in Fredericton as a kind of a cyber hub for New Brunswick, and build on our strengths. Working with companies like IBM, with Siemens on what is the next generation. The 5G that we talk about, you know, is that real for New Brunswick? How do we, can it be real everywhere, or can it be real in certain hubs that are going to be able to maximize the potential? And then part of working with companies on their potential expansion needs. For too long now, what we've done in government is simply find ways to throw money at something and hope for the best. Well, our philosophy is that we'll invest, but invest as a rate of return.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned cybersecurity. Tonight you also mentioned digital health and energy innovation as three areas you think we should focus on. Why these three, and how did you come to it?
So nowhere is innovation needed more than in the public sector. I mean, we have challenges for workforce in terms of our health. We have 1,300, over the next while, 1,300 nurses retiring in the next 5-10 years. We have 120,000 people over the next 10 years. Our workforce is retiring to a third of our workforce. So these are real issues. We can't keep doing the same thing and hope for the best. We have to find new ways to deliver services. And in healthcare, with the potential that exists in terms of utilizing technology, we can change how we do business a whole lot. And people have to realize, you know, what I said in the speech and what I believed in, it was a mantra for me all my career, was work is fun and change is good. Now, not everyone subscribes to that, but I've always found that if you don't change, you stall, you stagnate, and you don't grow. So we have to be prepared for change, and people have to look for what that means to them, but not be saying, I just can't do anything differently.
So speaking to the entire New Brunswick population and tonight's business-focused crowd, it's no surprise, given your background, that it really sounded like a business plan. And I wonder what role chambers of commerce or the business community can play in this plan. Where do we fit? And where do individual businesses fit in?
Well, you know, in speaking to you and the Chamber of Commerce, this is a business audience, and for the most part. And I guess what I have considered myself many times, I say, what's the role of a premier? And for me, I feel more like a facilitator than what a premier is supposed to feel like, maybe, and I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. But it's what is needed in communities. What do the chambers see to help grow their businesses? Whether it be the idea, regulations, red tape reduction, whether it be some of the things we did just recently with ANBL to help smaller businesses. It's looking at those things that are outside of maybe what we've seen as best practices in other provinces. So people look at New Brunswick and they say, we have got a best place to invest and live and work. And we need cover. I say cover, and we need advice. We need people to speak up in the chambers to say, I need this in our community in order to bring this investment in. This regulation makes no sense. And I love getting information like that and then digging right into it and making the changes necessary. We've all heard people talk about red tape reduction, but many times what's that mean? Does it affect you if I do something, and does it affect the businesses you represent? If it doesn't, then why am I doing it? And so we need the input in every community of what is holding anyone back from being as good as they can be.
Certainly the business community has been pleased with some of those regulatory changes that have been made that have impacted some small businesses, so we appreciate that. One thing you mentioned in your speech is that the reality is New Brunswick will have to spend more on healthcare every year. Has your government had any discussions with the federal government regarding changing the health care transfer formula to account for our aging population?
At every meeting, we have brought that up, and we put forward as Atlantic Premiers, but as First Ministers across the country, about a 5.5% increase as opposed to 3 where it is now. And we also, you know, as New Brunswick, as Atlantic Canada, we talked about our demographics, which is certainly leading the curve there in terms of the aging population. I guess, am I waiting for that to happen? No, absolutely not. We're going to focus on where we can innovate in our system, because we must. But our end goal, is to improve the services, not decrease the services. It doesn't mean everything is everywhere, but what it means is New Brunswick can offer what's best for healthcare. And we need to find those, and we have a plan coming forward over the next couple of months that will show some reforms in our healthcare to provide, let's say, better access to primary care, so we're not have people on long waiting lists. Better access for mental health situations, which is unprecedented now in our society. And so we just can't let this drag on. We have to deal with it. And so we're picking priorities. We won't be everything to everybody, but we'll deal with what we feel is the most critical.
Changing the subject a bit, there's been a lot of talk lately about the potential of small nuclear reactors in New Brunswick. In fact, you referred to this in your remarks this evening. Do you see this as a game changer and a real opportunity for New Brunswick?
I do. I think many years ago when La Praux was built, it was a big economic boom for the province at the time. But this is another potential in a whole different technology. And I think what people have learned over the years, nuclear, is that our way to the future? Nuclear is a clean, non-emitting source of energy that we can't replace. I mean, if you look at all the batteries we have right now in the world and you put them in Tokyo, they'd run the city for 4 days. So we don't have the capability in renewables as such. But the small nuclear technology, one technology uses spent fuel in the system. The production per kilowatt hour is so much less the actual fuel used. The pressures, they shut down automatically. There's not the runaway concern. And they're modular in the sense that you can construct them and ship them anywhere in the world. We are all permitted. We have a location at Point Lepreau that's all permitted to build a second reactor. I don't see a second reactor being built, but I see this technology as being an answer worldwide, and Canada can be on the leading edge.
So we could not only have this technology and this capability here, but we might be able to export it as well.
Absolutely, tremendous export. And we tied in with Ontario and Saskatchewan. We don't want to be competing with each other. This is a national strategy for energy renewal. And the federal government is receptive to this because they see the reality of it as well.
So you've made a commitment to lowering the NB Power debt and not impacting rates. How can we move forward on projects like the dam refurbishment, and small nuclear reactors?
So MB Power has struggled getting to a debt equity ratio of 80-20, which is where we were working for a few years ago. But we're looking at, we have a new technology that's going to allow the dam to continue longer, maybe even 2050, 2060. So we're moving that out a bit, and that's good. That makes sense. The other aspects of the operating plan for MB Power is, are we utilizing our assets to the greatest ability? Do we need all the same number of assets? I mean, if you look across the board, especially the fossil fuel ones, which we know have a limited life with our climate action plan. And then the current operation, the current, I guess, assets that we have in the system, as we move further down the road to renewable energy, how do we best monetize those? How do we best ensure that we get maximum value in what we have tied up for capital now? Because we need the money going forward as we invest further into things like the SMRs.
In your speech, it seemed clear that ONB is going to have a much broader range of responsibilities and reach. So will they see a corresponding funding increase to achieve those goals? And if not, what are they going to have to stop doing?
So there's kind of the nuance in many of the challenges I guess I put forward, is that there's kind of an inherent belief that everything needs more money in order to do better. And of course, I don't come quite with that total philosophy. Sometimes that's the case, absolutely, and investments required in order to increase your capability. But in some cases, you look at the size of the organization, the ONB right now, and you say, you know, I'll bet there's a lot of activities there that we are doing but aren't necessarily a priority. And what this new mandate that's been put forward by the board, by individuals in ONB, by experts that have been involved in this process, it's basically, what are we focusing on? And we picked kind of the priorities, and then we decide we're not going to be everything to everybody. We're going to focus on the probability of success that is the highest. And that hasn't been the case. Typically, you know, it's a political distribution model, and it doesn't pick the strategic investments to help communities and to help areas that really have potential to grow.
Okay. In the spring of 2019 immigration strategy, the government's goal was 7,500 newcomers annually. Tonight, you raised that goal to 10,000. What steps have been taken so far to push the federal government to increase our intake to 10,000?
So in our Atlantic Premier's meeting, Minister Freeland came to that meeting as well. And I was by video conference, as you may have known. I got kind of stormed out. But I was full participant in the session. And we talked about the increase in immigration. And my colleague in Nova Scotia, Stephen McNeil, he said, you know, they have the highest population growth they've had for a long time and the lowest unemployment rate they've had for a long time. And he said, I attribute that all to immigration. So he said, the more immigrants I can get, the better. So when you think about that, people have this belief that immigrants are taking our jobs. And that's not true.
At all.
It's not true at all.
Yeah.
And it's people bring a work, a capability. They bring demands in the system for more services, and that's what we need. So we decided that, you know, we're going to push the bar here, and the federal government have been receptive to us, and they've said to us, and Minister Freeland actually said, we just want to make sure that as we do this, we do not get ourselves in a position like we see in some other countries. But so far, I think people are integrated. We want families to integrate in communities so they stay here. I think there's a big opportunity, and we're going to push for that.
And most newcomers who are coming in through the entrepreneurial streams are actually creating jobs.
They are creating jobs, and they want to work. They're just happy to be part of a society like ours.
So recently, the federal government announced a plan that would see municipalities, chambers of commerce, economic development agencies having a municipal nominee plan. Do you think that would be impactful on this goal, and how will that roll out?
You know, I do think it will help our goal, but I don't know enough details about it.
We don't either.
Okay, well, I don't feel bad then.
Okay.
Because we will ask for more information and then to see how it fits in, but I'm optimistic. I guess it'll be helpful.
Okay, good. You also talked about in your speech that ONB is going to open an office in Europe to leverage Brexit. What did you mean by that, and what about a new office in India?
Well, you know, I told a story tonight about an Indian family that actually have invested in the Bhaktush area.
Yes.
And of course, I'm always proud of that when we're talking about investment that doesn't come looking for money from the government. And I think that strategically is the path forward. But We see more opportunities in India. I mean, I've met with this family several times, and they have other connections of people that want to invest in Canada, in the Atlantic region. We and then with the kind of the disruption, I would say, in the UK, there will be companies looking, does this change the way we do business? Does this change? So we just want to be on the ground floor in Europe as this is happening and say, what are we seeing here that maybe we can fit into? Because if it becomes, let's say, a challenge of where can we get suppliers, where do people invest now? If investors in Europe are not looking at the UK as such as they might have before, or vice versa, we want to be in the middle of it.
So you also talked tonight about a bold new marketing campaign. What can you tell us about that?
It's like New Brunswick is back. New Brunswick is focused. I think we brought confidence to our province. We have a plan for the future, a growth strategy, and the campaign is, we need your help. We need people to be involved as part of the process. So often, you know, we've set targets out, as I mentioned tonight, through the ONB process. But so often people are waiting for government to have an answer with something. And I've learned over the years that, you know, government, or in any job particularly, you don't come with all the answers, but you know, you should be able to go out and find them. And you should be able to provide the necessary input or the necessary help and assistance for others to be as good as they can be. So the message that we have here is that if you've got ideas, if you have a business and you're not getting response from government in terms of getting through the regulatory process, getting the service component of that, New Brunswick is open for business. New Brunswick is here to help investors, and we're going to be a rapid response government. That's our focus. We want people to look at us, and I don't want people talking anymore about New Brunswick being the poorest province. I don't feel like the poorest province when I live in New Brunswick, and I've lived here my whole life. We have so much to be thankful for, and I want to be promoting that across this country and across this world.
Well, Chambers of Commerce certainly like the open for business tagline, so maybe we can use that.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
You've got 2 by-elections coming up, so presumably we'll be sitting here together again next year. If so, do you predict you'll still be in a minority government situation?
Oh yes, I do. I mean, it will be interesting, the 2 by-elections, but I guess if you looked at historic voting, you would say that it will be an interesting race. And we would like to think that we'd at least be in the same situation we're in now, which would be in a minority government, but it would be the same situation. But this is unlike any other by-election. I mean, these by-elections can mean the difference between whether a government stays in government or whether it doesn't. For me, I've said it so many times. It's personally, this isn't a career for me. It's a mission, and I feel like a lot of people are part of this mission now. So the by-elections that we're having are crucial to fulfilling this mission, and we're here for one reason, and that's to see our province succeed. And I guess next year, I hope I'm here chatting with you. So it'll be an interesting time.
So we have about a minute left, and I'm going to leave you with a final question for you and for our audience to think about. You're now more than a year into your mandate. You are looking ahead. What do you hope your legacy will be as the 34th Premier of New Brunswick?
I think that we finally brought stability to the province, and we got engagement, almost like a cultural revolution, where people got engaged to help our province be better. The civil service, you know, became an entity that is out giving ideas and helping, and not just waiting for government to invent something. I'm just hoping for a whole different aspect, so it becomes people are really focused on doing what's best each and every day that they're here. And if we've turned the corner, then every year it gets better. And so my goal is this is a turning corner moment.
Thank you very much. And in closing, I want to say thank you to our guests at the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce State of the Province Address tonight. I want to say thank you to our guests at home who are watching live on Rogers TV. I want to say a special thank you to our sponsors who made the events possible. To people not only here in Fredericton and in New Brunswick, but people across the country who have tuned in tonight because they're interested in the economic prosperity of our province and our future. Finally, to you, Premier Higgs, for delivering your second State of the Province address to the people of New Brunswick, to the business community at tonight's 46th annual Fredericton Chamber of Commerce event. And I'll leave with this thought. you and I are doing a Facebook Live in a couple of weeks. And I'd like to close the show tonight by asking our viewers to think of questions for you about your speech tonight and about your plans for the coming year. So thanks again, and good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
About the sport that made me like want to go like every time, every practice just made me want to swim like even more. Just like really fell in love with it, I guess.
Yeah, I pretty much just started swimming lessons. You know, parents thought I should learn how to swim, and then I liked it, so then I started with synchro and then switched over to swim team.
It sounds like mom and dad were like, okay, we need you to do something.
Yeah.
So we can get out of the house. Swimming sounds good.
I'll drive you at 5 a.m.
But no, but if you look at, we'll say even the last, 10, 15 years, what swimming's done as far as a sport massively. I mean, and again, you have to look at a guy like Michael Phelps. I mean, he's the most decorated human athlete in the history of life.
Yeah.
And, there's certain athletes out there that change the sport in general, and he's one of those guys. I mean, having someone like him to look up to from a young swimming perspective, I mean, has that helped bring more people out to the pool?
Of course, I'm sure it does. Like, it's really like inspiring to see someone like do that many great things. It's really nice for us.
Yeah.
Do you guys do a lot of stuff outside the pool too? Like in that clip, there was some dry land stuff outside
Yeah,
the pool.
we do that too.
Is there some group training where you can actually talk to each other? And
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the people like in our group do 2 weight sessions a week. I do an extra one on Saturdays, so I do 3 times a week. And then sometimes we do like extra like yoga sessions or boxing just for some cross training in there.
So in regards to a coaching perspective, I mean, you brought your coach with you tonight, but at the same time, how vital has she been to helping you guys, basically develop and grow into the swimmers you are today?
Oh, she pretty much like makes the team. She's pretty much like, she really helps us through all of it,
Yeah. I mean, we weren't trying to put you on the spot
No.
here.
Oh, no.
She's not going to have you swim extra laps.
No.
and like you said, talking about coach, like how much is it technique when you're in the water? The difference between shaving whatever 5 seconds off a lap or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
How much is it just on stamina, or is it on a few little tricks and tips that you can do in the pool?
I mean, technique definitely, like, you can't get too far on horrible technique and just pure effort, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to put the effort into the technique as well.
Yeah.
And to a point, you can get far with bad technique, but then eventually the technique starts to play like a really vital role in swimming. So yeah, it's important to have the coach there to tell you what you're doing wrong.
Do you guys swim in specific events, or basically, do you run through like a medley or a relay, or are you guys straight just racing? Like, how are you running?
I'm pretty much like a sprinter, so like short distance are pretty much like my specialty.
Okay.
I swim kind of a bit of everything, mostly freestyle, I'd say. But we always train all the strokes so that we kind of keep a little bit more versatile than just, whatever we're focusing on.
Well, swimming is such a great cardio exercise to start with, right? Like,
Yeah.
talk about being in shape, you're doing that with some dry land. That's, talk about elite athletes. That's basically what swimming's going to do for these folks here.
So throughout if you go through any of the events you've ever swam at, what have been some of your favorite events, or was there one moment specifically that sticks out where you're like, hey, you know what, this is probably my favorite moment in the pool?
For me, I really like, I'm not sure, I really like swimming like a 50-meter butterfly.
Sure.
Yeah, I really like that event. It really makes me happy every time.
It's because you dominate?
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, I'd say 200 free just because I feel really in control of that race. That's kind of the event that I'm focusing on right now. So, just swimming and having my race plan, and when the race plan goes really well and I feel like I executed it well, I think that's when I'm like most proud of my swimming.
So, one of the last questions I want to ask you too, and that is obviously as young student athletes, I mean, how tough is it for you guys to juggle your academics at the same time, hit your 9 training sessions a week? I mean, it must be pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult, but like we make time. We don't like, waste time. We do like a schedule and we do it like when we're supposed to do it, and it all turns out well.
I think that's one big part of swimming is how much it improves your time management skills.
Of course, yeah.
You kind of need to develop those in order to get by. So by now, we've all pretty much figured it out.
Right.
Sometimes like exam week gets a little bit hard.
Right, yeah.
But
Cram week,
yeah.
So, of course, they have the meat exam week here, too. Yeah, of course. But.
Last thing I'm going to ask you guys, and how special is it for you guys to be able to represent your province and represent New Brunswick before you guys jump in? Must be pretty special.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, go ahead.
Other than the big meet coming up this week, do you guys have your sights on anything further down the road? Maybe some national meets or anything like that you want to get into?
Yeah, I have I'm excited for the Winter Nationals in April. Those are going to be a fun meet to go to, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then I have trials, so it's Olympic trials this year in April. It's Olympic trials as well as Junior Pan Pac, so I kind of have my goals for that. So
I don't want to cut you off, but we're out of time. So I want to thank you both very much for doing this. Congratulations on all your success so far. We'll be watching from a distance, and maybe we'll throw Chris in the pool. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up. We hope you've had a good time. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Thursday.
Thank you.
Good job.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
When you become a Rogers volunteer, it's always an opportunity for everybody to come together and try different things that they've never been able to do before.
What I've learned here is different skills that I thought I would never even be interested in learning.
By being here at Rogers, I can learn all these different things that will help me be stronger.
Working here as a volunteer is a good way to get to know your community. It's a good way to learn how to work as a part of a team.
They're people from our community, so they know and they have a heart for our community to step outside of our comfort zone and do more.
Don't be afraid, because this is where you're going to gain the most valuable experience that you can use in your future.
I encourage everybody to be a volunteer at Rogers TV because not only do you grow professionally, you grow personally as well.
I don't want this to be all there is. There's a whole wide world out there.
Make hats, Mitzi.
You're the strangest person I know.
I didn't want to come back. Now I don't want to leave.
Maleficent is a threat. It's all coming together. No more fairies.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
So, 15th of January 2020 to order, and just a reminder that this meeting is being video recorded for broadcast. We start off with a moment of silence. Before we begin this evening's meeting, I would like to observe a moment of silence for the victims of the fatal Ukrainian airline crash which occurred in Iran on January the 8th, 2020. A total of 176 passengers were killed, 57 of whom were Canadians from all across Canada, including British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and Nova Scotia. On behalf of council and staff, I'd like to extend our deepest condolences to the victims' families and friends. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I move the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Approval of the minutes, regular session of council, 18th of December, 2019.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? There's no presentations, no proclamations, correspondence. Madam Clerk, Cynthia Gelder, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Received December 19th, information from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure concerning 2020 municipal kilometrage reports and maps, and received January 5th, a list of upcoming events from the Chamber of Commerce. It was quiet over the holidays.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Mayor's comments. December the 19th, the Regional Service Commission 11 special meeting, attended the Fire Department's Christmas dinner. December 20th, staff Christmas luncheon. I stopped in for a few minutes to wish the staff happy holidays. December 21st, New Maryland Heritage Association meeting. January the 1st, Lieutenant Governor's levee. Councillor Mackay Burke attended. January the 2nd, Family Skate. Councillor LeBlanc attended. January the 6th, the Parish of New Maryland Soomers meeting. Councillor Mackay Burke attended. January the 7th, met with Don Fitzgerald, ED, Regional Service Commission 11, and Brett McCrae, General Manager of Solid Waste Division. Later that evening, I attended the Lions Club meeting. January the 8th, every Wednesday I'm volunteering as a reading buddy at the New Maryland Elementary School. And it's good to be back dealing with the children. And one student today, he said, "You're the mayor of the town." And I said, "How did you know that?" He said, "Well, my teacher told me." But he said, "You're not the mayor of the town, you're mayor of the village." So he corrected himself. It's like, children are always paying attention. January the 9th, met with Minister Carr, 3 of his senior staff members, Don Fitzgerald, the ED of Regional Service Commission 11, and Brett McCrae, General Manager of Solid Waste Division, to discuss recycling plastics, packaging, and printed paper. January the 11th, a big day in the village. Our new fire truck arrived. Councillors Mackay Burke, Pope, Scamble, and our CAO, Cynthia Geldert, attended the viewing. Congratulations to our fire chief and our volunteer firefighters. I know you're quite pleased with that, and we're very pleased for you. January 13th, Regional Service Commission 11 Governance Meeting. January 14th, met with our CAO, Cynthia Geldart, and Danielle Doan, HR consultant. And once a summary has been completed for me, I will share that report with council. January 15th, met with DELG, Ivan Corbett, municipal service rep for the New Maryland Local Service District, Cynthia Geldart, CAO, Karen Taylor, assistant clerk, Fire Chief Farrell, Jim McNanny, EOC director, and LSD reps, Rob Amos, Joan McDonald, and John Williamson. The topic for discussion was New Maryland Local Service District emergency planning. And this evening, before our meeting, a potluck hosted by the New Maryland Soomers, Councillor Mackay Burke attended, and they did have a good turnout tonight, didn't they?
They sure did.
Very good. I'd like to share a message with everybody, and this is very important. There's been an unfounded rumor making its way around the region about recycling at the landfill. It has been suggested that recycling items packaged in the blue bag are not actually recycled and simply diverted to the landfill. This isn't true. Blue bag items placed out on recycling days are treated in the same manner as items placed in the recycling bin. You may have encountered this rumor already, or you may hear it in the coming weeks and months. If you could set the record straight when the opportunity exists, it would be greatly appreciated. Our residents, region-wide, need to know that their work in sorting and placing items for recycling does make a difference, and that their material is actually recycled.
Was that in the news? Wasn't that a news item somewhere?
I don't know.
I remember
if
Cheryl was really upset about that.
So she's heard it too?
Yeah, she had heard it.
Okay. We were alerted by our ED, Don Fitzgerald. All board members were alerted to this, and he asked if we could help out, so I asked him I could provide a blur tonight to let everybody know,
That'll ease
especially
her
the
mind.
council. Pardon me?
That will ease Cheryl's mind. She's
Okay.
upset about that.
Yes, yeah. Well, we want to set the record straight.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Scammell. Deputy Mayor Schulman.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. On January 8th, on behalf of the Union of Municipalities in New Brunswick, I attended a media release conducted by the Emergency Measures Organization announcing the Emergency Preparedness Exercise Brunswick Charlie, which is planned for June 2nd, 2020. The one-day exercise will give communities, municipalities, First Nations, and local service districts an opportunity to practice their respective roles during an emergency event. On January 10th and 11th, I volunteered at the annual Fredericton High School Black and Gold Junior Varsity Boys and Girls Basketball Tournament, which is held at Fredericton High School, and some of the games at New Maryland Elementary School. Very good basketball that weekend, and I'm very pleased to advise everyone that the local boys, or the FHS boys and girls teams, both won gold in that tournament, so it was nice results. On January 14th, I attended a meeting with UMB student Verdan Malhotra to discuss a not-for-profit initiative he started called Food Scoop. This project focuses on collecting and distributing food that may otherwise be discarded because of its closeness to best before dates, or fruits and vegetables that may not have been harvested at the end of the growing season. And he distributes those to local community food kitchens or shelters, or to local consumers. I want to commend Mr. Malhotra for his sense of community and his efforts to reduce food waste. On January 14th, I attended a meeting with Margot Craig, the Executive Director for the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick, to discuss preparations for our 2020 AGM, which will be next September or October, and the conference to prepare for, and also to prepare for the upcoming UMB board and executive meetings coming up within next month. On January 14th, I attended a meeting with the Greater Fredericton Area Newcomer Partnership Council to discuss challenges and opportunities to improve local immigration attraction, settlement, and retention efforts. The council is made up of stakeholders in the local community, including the local school districts, universities and community colleges, health authorities, police, employment agencies, economic development agencies, recreation organizations like the YMCA, and municipal representatives who work together to make Fredericton, or the Greater Fredericton area, more newcomer friendly. And on January 15th, I attended a meeting of the executive of Ignite Fredericton and Knowledge Park to prepare for upcoming board meetings to be conducted on January 29th.
Thank you. Councillor McIver?
I just want to add to what you've mentioned already. I did attend the potluck with the Zoomers, and I did stay for the presentation. It was a dietitian, nutritionist from Department of Health with Horizon Health, and a dietetic student along with the dietitian, and they talked about the revision of Canada's food guide, so it was quite interesting.
Good, thank you. Councillor Pope?
That wasn't that.
Councillor Scammell?
No, nothing to add, except I do love that truck. And I want to take it for a spin sometime.
Your chair breaks like it. Thank you. We'll move now to the Plan Advisory Committee. Deputy Mayor Schulman, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following is a Planning Advisory Committee report for January 2020 as prepared by Rob Perot, our Building Inspector and Development Officer. The Planning Advisory Committee conducted their last regular meeting on January 6, 2020. At that meeting, the committee reviewed and discussed the December 2019 building permit report, which noted 3 permits having been issued with $16,700 in estimated value of construction and $179 in permit fee revenue for the month. Also at that meeting, we discussed the 2019 annual building permit report summary. This is an annual summary of all building work that was done for the previous year. So in that report, they noted a year-end total of 135 permits having been issued with $4,409,444 in estimated value of construction and $24,750 in permit fee revenue for the year. In comparison to previous years, 2019 had a higher number of building permits overall, an increase from 108 permits in 2018 to 135 permits in 2019, and an increase of approximately $1.2 million in estimated value of construction, from $3.2 million in 2018 to over $4.4 million in 2019. And an increase in permit revenue from $24,750 in 2018 to $33,580 in 2019, which is partly attributed to the new semi-detached dwellings in the recently developed Orchard Edge subdivision. Overall, it was a very successful year, building year for the village. The next item that was discussed in that meeting was a conditional use variance application, beehives in a residential zone, 14 Cortlandt Street. The committee reviewed and approved a conditional use variance request for keeping of bees in a residential zone, subject to terms and conditions. And finally, a requested zoning bylaw amendment 04-01-2020 for 400 New Maryland Highway. The committee reviewed a requested zoning bylaw amendment for the property located at 400 New Maryland Highway. The committee acknowledged the need and importance of the type of service proposed to be conducted on the property, which was a group home. However, the committee also expressed concern that the proponents for the zoning bylaw amendment had not demonstrated sufficient regard for adherence to their own internal policies and standing operating procedures with respect to seeking the necessary land use approvals in advance and with regard to promoting integration and compatibility with the neighborhood. In consideration of the zoning bylaw and municipal plan objectives of preserving community safety, well-being, and protection of property values, the committee did not recommend council approve the requested zone amendment to permit a group home as permitted use on the residential zone property at 400 New Maryland Highway. And with that, I move for the acceptance of this report.
Second?
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Chopin. Move on now to project reports, updates. Recreation Department, Councillor Mackay-Burke, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Departmental updates for the Recreation Leisure Service Department has been received from our Recreation Coordinator. And to start off, work is underway on our outdoor rinks in Athletic Park, and staff are working diligently to have the first rink open soon. Depending on weather conditions, it is hoped to have the first rink open by this weekend. Staff also plans to build a sliding hill again this year next to the rinks as soon as we have enough snow accumulation. Hopefully, we will be able to open later this month, but as with the rinks, it all depends on the weather conditions. Residents are advised to keep an eye with the village social media, as well as the community bulletin board and the recreation hotline at 451-4732. As soon as the rinks and sliding hill are open, staff will spread the word. Our New Year's skate at the Grant Harvey Center on January 2nd was well attended, with many families participating. It was so nice to see the different generations participating in this activity, and the hot chocolate was a big hit with young and old alike. Although staff preferred to book a time closer to Christmas, the village's ice time was not available this year due to other bookings. The village's babysitter course held on January 3rd had 19 participants. Both the babysitter and stay safe courses continue to be very popular with our residents. And we will hold our next Stay Safe in April and another babysitter course in June. Unfortunately, our one-day day camp was canceled as we did not have enough sign-ups. And under PNM Zoomers activities, the PNM Zoomers will hold their next monthly meeting on Monday, February 3rd at 10 a.m. in the boardroom of the New Maryland Center. Stretch and strengthening classes takes place every Tuesday and Thursday mornings from 10 to 11 a.m. The book club meets the fourth Thursday of each month at 11 a.m. in the boardroom, and the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 23rd at 11 a.m. Intermediate line dancing takes place every Monday at Victoria Hall at 10:30 a.m. The cost is $5 per class, and one must be a member of the PNM Zoomers in order to participate. Yoga classes are being offered starting on today, January 15th, and will be every Wednesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Craft group meets every other Wednesdays from 9 a.m. until noon. The next meeting will be January 29th. The Zoomer memberships are due this month, January 2020, and the cost is $25 for the year. Membership forms can be found on the village website under 50+. New members are always welcome. For more information on the PNM Zoomer activities, please contact pnmzoomers@gmail.com. And moving on now to regularly scheduled activities resumed at the New Maryland Elementary School last week. For the winter session, we have 3 new groups that have booked time at the gym. The Spartans Volleyball Club on Sunday mornings. The Learn to Play Basketball group has returned this year on Mondays and Wednesdays, and the Reds Volleyball Club booked additional time on available Wednesdays. All weekday evenings are now fully booked until late March. And under announcements and reminders of upcoming events, Open Gym has returned to the New Maryland Elementary School as of this past weekend. Reminder that the Open Gym is offered on Friday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 and Sunday afternoons from 2 to 4. Cost is $2 per person, and all ages are welcome. Younger children must be supervised, however. Co-ed adult volleyball has resumed at the New Maryland Elementary School for 2020 and is held on Sunday evenings from 7 to 9:30 p.m. New members are welcome, and the cost is $2 per person. And just a reminder that the annual membership can be purchased for $25 from a gym supervisor at the elementary school or at the village office. The passes are accepted until June 2020 and may be used for both programs, the Open Gym and co-ed adult volleyball. And last to report, our annual Glow Skate and Slide is scheduled for Friday, February 14th in Athletic Park from 6 to 9 p.m. Come and check out the village's outdoors rinks and sliding hill. Staff will be on hand with glow sticks and hot chocolate. And the New Maryland guides will build and monitor the bonfire. Of course, event is subject to weather and availability of the rinks and the sliding hill. This concludes the highlights of my report. So that being said, I move the adoption of the Recreation Department report.
Second report.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Mackay-Burke.
You're welcome, Your Worship.
Public Works Department, Councillor Scamble, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Village staff investigated a total of 125 public works reports for 2019. The reports are inquiries from residents relating to transportation, water, and sewer or recreation issues. I'm pleased to report that the majority of the reports concluded with gratitude and compliments from the residents involved. The 125 reports are similar to other years. With winter weather upon us, motorists are reminded to allow extra time and greater stopping distances when slippery conditions may be present. Also, please be mindful of pedestrians using crosswalks and walking along streets with no sidewalks. And please be advised the ban on overnight parking on village streets is now in effect. As per bylaw number 63, vehicles are not permitted to park on village streets between midnight and 7 o'clock a.m. of any day, or leave any vehicle unattended during periods of snowfall on any street or highway so as to interfere with snow removal operations. Council and staff would like to thank residents who have participated in the Adopt a Hydrant program for snow clearing and would like to encourage others to participate during the winter months by keeping hydrants clear of snow. Any assistance is greatly appreciated. Village staff assisted the New Maryland Scouts in their annual Christmas tree pickup, which occurred on January 4th this year. The trees are collected and hauled to the wastewater treatment plant site for chipping and disposal in the spring. The New Maryland Scouting Group appreciates the donations they received. And with that, I move acceptance of this report.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Scammell.
You're welcome, Your Worship.
Move on now to the New Maryland Fire Department. Fire Chief Farrell is going to give the quarterly and year-end report.
Thank you, Your Worship. The quarterly report for 2019, which includes the months of October, November, and December, we had 24 calls. The same time in 2018, we had 29. The number of calls in the village, we had 8, and outside the village, plus the LSD that we look after, we had 16. The total firefighting hours for all those calls was 287. When you break it down, we had 59 hours in the village and 228 outside the LSD. The top 3 types of calls were, we had 5 fire alarms, 4 structure fires, 4 vehicle accidents. And that's my quarterly report. My annual report for 2019, the department had 74 calls for the year, where last year in 2018 we had 97, so we were down a little bit. The total calls in the village were 34. I broke this down a little bit more. The outside the village, my LSD, my mutual aid calls, we had 32 calls in LSD, but we had 8 mutual aid calls, so we made it for 40. The total firefighting hours for the village was 240 hours. The LSD's was 372 hours, and we had 211 for mutual aid calls, which put a total of 583 for the year for outside the LSD area and in the mutual aid. The top 3 types of calls we had were 15 fire alarms, 15 vehicle accidents, and 9 structure fires. And that's my verbal report.
I move the adoption of the quarterly and year-end fire department reports as presented by Chief Farrell.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Fire Chief Farrell and Councillor Pope. Now we have a motion, Councillor Steinberg, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The motion is to award the tender for the fire chief's replacement vehicle. So before presenting the motion, I just want to present some background information. At the September 25th, 2019 Council and Committee meeting, the fire chief made a request to Council to commence the tendering process for the replacement of his vehicle. Council was informed that funds for this purchase will be coming from the Capital Reserve for Fire Department vehicles and is cost shared by the provincial government at a rate of 36%. On December 2nd, 2019, the tender for the manufacture and supply of a 4x4 commercial sports utility vehicle was issued. The tender closed on December 18, 2019, with only one company, Woods Motor 1972 Limited, submitting a tender bid for a 2020 Ford Expedition at a price of $56,493.39 plus $8,474.01 HST and license fee of $239 for a total tendered bid of $65,206.40. This is the first phase of the replacement of the chief's vehicle. When the vehicle arrives, a tender will be issued for the supply and installation of lights, sirens, and storage compartments at a maximum cost of $15,000. HST is included. At the January 8th, 2020 Council and Committee meeting, Council reviewed the bid information and approved the Chief's recommendation to award the tender to Woods Motor 1972 Limited at this evening's Council meeting. Therefore, I move the following resolution of Council. Be it resolved that the Council for the Village of New Maryland, as per the recommendation of the Fire Chief, accept the tendered bid submitted by Wood Motors 1972 Limited on December 18, 2019 for the manufacture and supply of a 4x4 commercial sports utility vehicle in the amount of $56,493.39 plus $8,474.01 and license fee of $239 for a total tendered bid of $65,206.40, and that the funds be sourced from the Capital Reserve Fund established for this purpose, and that the mayor and clerk are authorized to execute said contract.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor McIver.
You're welcome, Your Worship.
Finance Department, Councillor Scamble, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the fall of 2019, finance staff worked with the village auditors to commence the 2019 preliminary audit work and testing. All went well, and the on-site work was completed ahead of schedule. The treasurer, along with the CAO and senior staff, put together a comprehensive and fiscally responsible budget with numerous options for council's consideration. And after careful consideration and much debate, a final budget was arrived at and approved on at the December 18, 2019 formal council meeting. In December 2019, the village received its third gas tax payment for 2019, bringing the total received from the gas tax program for 2019 to $602,923. This money will be used to go towards the Alban Street upgrade that will occur in 2020. In early January 2020, the treasurer made application to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board so that financing can be available to construct a public works recreation garage depot. The results of that application are anticipated around mid-March of 2020. The fourth quarter utility billings for 2019 went out on the first week of January 2020. So again, finance staff were busy preparing those items for mail out. Presently, there are 1,011 that are printed and hand-stuffed into envelopes and mailed out, and we have 418 that are sent out electronically via email. Both methods include any additional notices or flyer information. The electronic method saves staff time and printing and postage costs, which in turn saves the village money or provides better value for your dollar, which benefits everyone. The other benefit for the customers is that they do not have to worry about mail strikes or missing a bill because they may be away for an extended period. Their email is accessible generally wherever they go. So let's make 2020 the year that everyone does that little something extra to go green, and sign up by sending an email to accounts.receivable@vonm.ca with the following information: their account number, the name on the account, the address, and the email to be used. And with that, I move acceptance of this report.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Scamble.
Welcome, Your Worship.
There's no report from the Administration Department, and there's no report from the Seniors Advisory Committee. Move on to the approval of the Treasurer's Report. Councillor Pope, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The adoption of the Treasurer's monthly report fulfills a municipal requirement under provincial legislation. I move the following resolution of council. Be it resolved that the Treasurer's report be adopted as follows. Payments made in the month of December 2019 from the general operating account by checks and direct payments, $917,603.78. From the water and sewer operating account, $20,034.02. From the general capital account, $136,215.